What is going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another 1 month review. This, of course, is the New Balance Tekela V4 Plus in this really, really beautiful navy blue and light blue colorway. Now, the Tekela is one of my favorite boots on the market. Maybe some ratings you might not agree with in this particular video, but let's hop straight into it with the sole plate. Now, the sole plate of the Tekela V4 Plus is super interesting. If you haven't seen any of my reviews on the newest generation of Tekelas, you should definitely go check those out. Basically, they've made a really nice neutral conical stud pattern, and then they've added these TPU rim studs, which mirror what you get in a lacrosse cleat here in America, and I know some other countries play lacrosse, but it basically adds the most sort of agile ability in a sole plate that I think you can find in an FG model of football boots. It's really unique. It's really interesting to play in. Maybe teeters on too aggressive for FG, but AG, excuse me, but on FG, it's absolutely sensational. I've been able to wear these in AG and FG for matches and for training sessions, so I have a pretty good idea of kind of how they perform. I think I'd prefer them on FG most of the time, but again, on AG, they are going to be just fine for most people. In my opinion, this is a good sole plate. It's not great because it doesn't have as much snapback as maybe I would like, but for me, it's a very good and nice neutral sole plate. It's going to be in 7 out of 10. The heel area for the Tekela V4 Plus fits my foot really well, especially if I go a half a size up, which I would properly recommend for everybody. The New Balance boots fit about a half a size small, and so I wear a 9.5 as opposed to a 9 US. The heel area though, I would probably rate it as like a 7.58, but it's going to get a 6 for the sake of this video because I have heard way too many people to rate it an 8 say, hey, it's causing blisters, it's causing issues. This little bit of padding in the heel area is just causing a lot of problems. I had teammates who said the same thing, and so I can't really ignore that feedback from you guys who are ultimately the people who these videos are for. And so for me, this is gonna get a 6 out of 10 for the heel area just because of how much issues it was causing with friends of mine. The upper on the Tekela V4 Plus is fantastic. It is one of the best knit uppers on the market. It's probably my second choice behind the GX2. It's really hard to beat, honestly. This hypo knit is so incredibly soft straight out of the box. It's, I would say, by far the softest boot straight out of the box from a knit perspective. Really, really comfortable, accommodating for most foot shapes, and it comes in a wide fit as well. These are the standard fit model, which I actually ended up fitting in pretty well going half a size up, and the width gave me basically 0 issues, which is huge. So for me, decent amount of lockdown stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute. But again, from a softness perspective, from a plushness perspective, it's really hard to beat the hypo knit upper from the New Balance Tekela. So this is going to get an 8 out of 10. Lockdown is, I would say, iffy. The only reason for that is because they didn't add any reinforcements on the lateral or medial side that are specific to lockdown. I would say that as an overall product, you feel really nice and secure in the boot. I never had any issues with slippage or anything like that rolling over the sole plate, which of course is what lockdown really is. That being said, there are some moments where my feet, I felt like, slipped a little bit inside the boots. Never at rollover, never issues with my ankle or anything like that, but I did feel like it wasn't as structurally sound as it possibly could be. Now, this reminds me a lot of like a low top Magista 1. It's really reminiscent of that football boot with that thin knit upper. That being said, the Magista actually had more lockdown than this one does because of those flywire cables. If New Balance were to put something like that in this boot, I think more people would gravitate towards this just because they would find it to be a little more aggressive when it comes to the lockdown. With a knit upper like this, the hypo knit really is so stupidly soft straight out of the box, and so you compromise a little bit on that lockdown without any of those elements on the lateral and medial sides. So for the lockdown, it's going to get a 6.5 out of 10. The break-in time is really sensational. I would say it took me about 30 minutes to break these in, and that's being really stickler. most of the time, I reckon I could stick into a brand new out-of-the-box pair of Tekela V4 and be totally fine, no problems asked, straight into a training session or a game without any issues. That being said, right on that spot where I've got the really big bone that sticks out and is sort of the widest part of my feet here in the lateral side, that's where it gave me a little bit of a hot spot. But as I said, take the boots off once, put them back on, and I never have issues after that, and I can basically pick these up from my shelf and use them anytime I want without any issues. So for me, this is going to get pretty close to top marks for break-in time. I think most people are going to find these to be really exceptional, straight out of the box, super, super comfortable. And if you do have a proper break-in time, i.e. you have any sort of issues with any area of the boot, it's gonna go away super, super quickly because of how soft this hypo knit upper is. So for me, 8.5 out of 10 for break-in time. Durability and build quality for the Tekela V4 has been really good so far. I don't think it's on par necessarily with the other knit boots on the market like the SKX and the GX2, but it's very, very close. I think, again, as I said in the lockdown portion, when you start having an upper that's this soft and this pliable, you do start to sacrifice a little bit on durability. I'm getting a little bit of separation from the sole plate. There's parts of the knit that are kind of fraying a little bit now, but at the end of the day, it really still is a fantastic and durable pair of football boots. I think unless you were gonna play on this every single day on an AG surface, you'll probably rip these to shreds, which AG does to any boot, to be fair. But if you're gonna play on sort of a hybrid between FG and AG, or you play mostly on FG, these will last you a really great amount of time, in my opinion. And so for me, the durability and build quality of these gets a 8 out of 10. Shape and fit for the Tekela is fantastic. In my opinion, it's one of the most neutral shaped boots on the market. I think even more so than some of its competition like the Predator or the GX or the SKX. Particularly here in the toe box area, you can see how neutral and I guess just kind of wide and open it is. That's not to say that there isn't good lockdown in the toe box area, but I would say that this fits my toe better than most boots on the market, just because it really just gives a super anatomical shape as opposed to some of the other competition. And so for me, the shape and fit of this boot really is sensational. I love wearing the Tekela. I think it's super comfortable. It's remarkably lightweight. And so it's going to get an 8.5 out of 10 for shape and fit. So as I mentioned before, competition for this football boot, or at least I mentioned a few of them, GX2, the Puma Future FTR7, you've got the Predator, of course, and then you have the SKX. Those are kind of the power / control boots on the market that compete with the New Balance Tekela. Now, Tekela and the GX and the SKX, of course, are all knit-based, with the Predator being a synthetic-based. So kind of take Predator out just because this one isn't quite as maybe comparable to that in some respects. But for me, this sort of sits right on par or a little bit above the SKX. The GX2 is my favorite out of all the competition. That's just my personal favorite. But the New Balance Tekela is a close second. I wore these a lot in preseason this past year, and I absolutely love wearing these on FG and AG pitches. They're super fun, really great to ping in. The ball feels incredible on your feet because of how thin this knit is. And of course, as I said before, it's super, super comfortable for most foot shapes. And so it really is an overall fantastic product. So for me, this is probably gonna go like second or third on the full list of competition. Performance for the Tekela V4 is very good. As I mentioned before, I really, really like wearing these for training sessions, and I've worn them once for games as well, and they performed really well. They're not quite up to par of what I would like. My major kind of gripe with the boots is that they don't have enough lateral stability for how soft this upper is. I think the more softness you go with the upper, the sort of more locked in you need elements here on the lateral and medial sides of the midfoot, just to sort of balance the performance and the comfort out a little bit. That being said, these perform fantastically well. From a striking surface perspective, I don't like them as much as SKX Predator or GX2, but from like a control and passing perspective, they feel so good and they're really hard to beat from that perspective. So for me, these are going to get an 8 out of 10 for performance. Overall, the Tekela V4 Plus is a very, very good product, considering that it's a little bit less expensive than some of the competition at the top end, and you can often find previous colorways for even less expensive, like 30–40% off sometimes. New Balance has created something really, really special here, and in my opinion, their whole lineup, if you sort of aggregate their lineup compared to everyone else's, they've got to be in the top 3 in my opinion. The Tekela, the Furon, and the 442 are all really excellent products in my opinion, and although some of the ratings in this video didn't really maybe chalk up to some other boots, I still prefer wearing these over most things on the market. They're probably like second or third choice for me right now as far as like a performance boot goes, and they are really comfortable to wear on feet. So for me, these are going to get an 8 out of 10 for an overall rating. Excellent football boots, would highly recommend you try them. One of the most comfortable boots out of the box for comfort and performance. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Down in the description box below, I will leave a link to my favorite grip socks, which are of course the WeFoot grip socks. You guys can get 20% with the code NOAH20, so you can get a discount code there on your entire order. They ship internationally as well, so you can go grab some there. As always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.